And if we don't, we're out of business. That's the way it works. I don't know about the rest of what's going on. The other thing I want to say is, and I want to make sure there's no children in this room. How young?
It's okay.
Well, I read some things in a magazine about some books that are in this very library, and I don't care who you are. If I'm not mistaken, you can be 12 years old in a middle school, yes? Yes? A 12-year-old has access to information concerning high school girls' orgasms and the size of men's genitals. You all ought to be embarrassed of yourself right now.
Good evening. My name is Jim Balsamillo. I'm a local resident. I hear about this magazine. I have a master's degree in health sciences, sex education. I've taught for nearly 30 years in East Brunswick. I've written curriculum and I've ordered materials. If you haven't seen this, you should take a peek. I was astounded, blown away. Definition, commonly held definition for pornography is that it has no social redeeming value. If you can find something redeeming to teach a 6th grader, 7th grader about children here,
It's okay.
anal sex, oral sex, masturbation, hooking up to have as many sex partners as you wish, as long as you wear condoms. You tell me where there's social redeeming value to teach a child this type of thing. Not teaching it, it's not a curriculum, I don't know what your curriculum is, I haven't found it.
It's just in here.
But it's out for anybody to see. Here's the worst downside, and I don't care what kind of studies you find saying this is okay, because of the pandemic liberalism in this country that's tearing the family apart. Traditionally, man and woman having sex, produce children, have a loving bond. This doesn't say anything about that. Not even close.
Maybe we need to read it.
18-year-olds, with, I don't know what kind of education they have, where they're giving advice to 16, 17-year-olds? Come on. That's called reckless endangerment. That's impairing the morals of a minor. This is close to criminal here, folks.
Yeah.
I think you ought to take another look at it. The worst part is, down the road, if these children are introduced to this pandering, if they accept this and start doing everything that you say you can do and it's okay, because we're a modern country, which is baloney, they're going to have long-term side effects. I'm going to tell you what they are. Guilt, depression, risk of abortion, venereal diseases, abusing drugs, alcohol, and marijuana, etc. And the worst is suicide. You could check that out. You better get this out of here before, I hope somebody sues you for having this garbage in your school. Thank you.
Stephen.
I have a question first for Amy. In terms of board forum, is it appropriate for a board member to offer any motion during board forum, or is it just to discuss an issue?
It's typically just to discuss an issue, but until the meeting's closed, a board member can make a motion at any time and then see if somebody were to second that motion.
Well, at this point, I'd just like to discuss an issue, and hopefully this issue can be put on next Wednesday's meeting for a vote of the board, because I don't want this issue to drag on, and I don't want this issue to elicit a lot of public comment, which is going to distract the board in terms of its obligations. So let me make my comments with respect to this issue. And the issue revolves around the Sex, Etc. magazine. Board of Education members under the New Jersey Ethics Law are required to uphold and follow New Jersey law. So my first question was, and only the board can remove this magazine from the media center. The superintendent can't, no one other than the board. The board has to take a vote. So that's why I would like to be considered at the next meeting. For New Jersey Law 18835-4-19-20 says the following. Any resource materials, any curriculum materials must be age appropriate, medically accurate, and culturally unbiased. An assessment of those three conditions, according to the law that we must follow on board members, requires us to answer the question, is the Sex Etc. magazine age appropriate? The School Library Association, in its journal, indicates the appropriate level for this magazine is not 7th and 8th grade. It's 9th grade or above. Common Sense Media suggests it's freshman or sophomore level in terms of its appropriateness. The magazine itself, which is written by teens for teens, has a major section that are question and answers. In looking at various editions of that magazine, all the questions were typically written by 17, 18, and 19-year-olds. There was maybe one or two questions that was sent in by a 15 or a 16-year-old. There was no question sent in by 12, 13, or 14-year-olds, which suggests the magazine is not age appropriate for 7th and 8th grade students. Lucinda Holt, director of the Answers program, which produces the magazine, was quoted in the Leader that came out this week. Most of our subscribers are high school. We have a few middle school subscribers. That indicates a few that this, again, might not be appropriate at the middle school level. That means the majority of junior high schools do not subscribe to this magazine. Second question, is this magazine medically accurate? I did as much search as I could find on that and could find nothing that would indicate that the information is not medically accurate. Whether it's controversial is another question. The only thing on the medical accuracy suggests by the website itself, they address the question and they say it's medically accurate. And I haven't seen enough issues to judge, and I don't know enough in terms of medical accuracy of these things to judge that. The third condition required by law is the magazine culturally biased or unbiased. It's required to be culturally unbiased. Now we know every family will develop their own unique values around sex and sexuality, and taken together the magazine should provide an unbiased forum for a variety of opinions, cultures, and lifestyles. My assessment after examining 3 issues of the magazine and further research is that it is not culturally unbiased. In a study by Dr. Reisman, PhD, and a lawyer, Mary McAllister, it is their contention that the magazine, Sex Ed, contradicts and undermines the cultural resources children depend upon for their well-being. Furthermore, they contend that the educational establishment uses its authority, this is their comment, not mine, to libel the cultural and religious foundations of previous and current generations, and thus undermines the children's home culture. The contention may be true or not true. Do you think that this magazine can undermine a student's home cultural values? After looking at 3 issues, I think it can. I offer a visual from one of the issues that you can pass to the board members, and you can look for yourself to see if it might undermine your value as an individual. If there are any copies left, you can pass them to the audience. Further examination provides the following points which suggest it's not unbiased. In 1983, Rutgers University launched its Answer Sex Ed training program, which produces the magazine. Answer is an approved provider of the New Jersey Professional Development Hours. They contracted with SECUS, which stands for Sexuality Information Educational Council of the United States, to train sex educators, teachers, to promote learner diversity's value clarification, in quotes. If one examines the SECUS literature, one finds the following. The organization describes itself as a national nonprofit organization which affirms that sexuality is a natural and healthy part of living. SECUS develops, collects, and disseminates information, promotes comprehensive education, and advocates for rights of individuals. One of the goals of education, taken from one of their publications, and this is what disturbed me a lot, one says, our goal is to train sexual education teachers to change the morals and values outcome of roughly 8,000 youth per year. To change the moral and value outcome of roughly 8,000 youth per year. That is one of their goals, which suggests to me that's not culturally unbiased. On parental involvement, SECUS usurps the role of parents in sex education without parental knowledge, according to his statement on his website. This is off of his website. On pornography, quote, they say, adults should have the right to access sexually explicit material for personal use. Legislative and judicial efforts to prevent the production or distribution of sexually explicit material endangers constitutionally guaranteed freedom of speech and press. Dr. Reisman concludes her report on SICAS and magazines like Sex Ed by saying, sex educators really work to restructure children's brains regarding sexual activity in line with sex educators were taught. This in turn requires removing a child's trust in parents and church and replacing it with trust in school sex educators. Point one conclusion, the magazine Sex etc. placement in a junior high fails to meet state law on two provisions, age appropriateness and culturally being an unbiased perspective. Point number two, what does this publication do for the welfare of our students? How does the Sex etc. magazine impact student welfare? Does it provide factual information which may be useful? Yes, there is factual information in that publication. Does it provide such information in a manner that is beneficial to students in the junior high school? My answer there after looking at it was no, it does not. Why do most 16-year-olds drive like they are missing a part of their brain? Because they are. The second thing on the thing I passed out shows the brain development at different stages. You will see the brain development there at age 12. Not fully developed, quite different from the brain development at 18 and 21. Research in child development, and particularly brain development, has proven what parents and advocates for children have long understood. Children's brains are not capable of processing explicit images and graphic tests that they are subjected to in sexually explicit education. This leads to physical, psychological, and social trauma, like the gentleman suggested earlier, which in turn leads to long-term harm, sexual abuse, and crime. The Sex magazine has a level of graphic and explicit images and text which goes beyond valuable information. It is difficult to analyze and synthesize if the brain is not fully developed. Thus, the potential for creating harm is real. The magazine, although it be well-intended, expects 12 and 15-year-olds to engage in complex decision-making regarding the risks and benefits of various sexual behaviors. Although neuroscience has determined that that portion of the brain required to make decisions is not fully developed at that time. The Supreme Court in FCC versus Fox ruled that children mimic the behavior they observe. They prohibited Fox from using expletives in their broadcast, even though those expletives were fleeting and infrequent. The court ruled that fleeting expletives can be harmful to children. Fleeting expletives, one word. I'm going to say those fleeting expletives. If that's the case, it follows that overt sexual texts and images, as appears in Sex, etc., are harmful to minors when authority delivered to children under the color of sex education or resource materials. Point three, what's the role of our educators and this board? Educators are excused under New Jersey state law for any liability for exposing children to pornography. I didn't know that. There's an educational exemption in the pornographic laws that libraries and teachers are exempt from that in terms of their educational mission. This makes it easier for child predators who also happen to be educators to groom students with sexually explicit graphical materials in order to obtain consent to engage in inappropriate sexual encounters between teachers and students. A Washington Post news article written by Terry Abbott, Chief Staff of the United States Department of Education, revealed that more teachers are having sex with their students than ever before. Having explicit materials used as educational materials is a device that is mentioned in the story which fosters removing certain sexual taboos from students and in Esther fosters social acceptance of teens to engage in such behavior. Quoting again from the Reisman report, we are forced to the conclusion that the authors of sexually explicit materials, like Sex, etc., recklessly assist in the grooming of child subjects for later sex abuse. This is due to providing child subjects with early and frequent exposure to graphic sexual images and words which, like pornography, are used by predators to desensitize and lower children's inhibition. Educators and school board members like us must be mindful of the culture dissonance between the values and behaviors taught in the classrooms and the traditional values taught in our home and our community. School districts have an obligation to provide accurate information to the students entrusted in their care. When they abdicate that responsibility, they violate the fundamental liberty interest of parents who expect schools to educate and not to harm. As board members, we cannot pretend to protect the children as if they were our own if this is not true. So I would request the board to consider at its next meeting, and we are the only ones who have an authority to remove the Sex Etc. magazine from the shelves of the junior high library. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kabricki.
Do we have to wait? Can we act tonight on that? Do we have to wait?
Point of order, I tabled it, so.
Yes,
You did,
it
okay.
is
All right,
from the agenda.
But
Okay.
it hasn't been removed from the library.
that's correct.
No, it's right here.
No,
It's right
no, I
here.
tabled it. I know, but when are we going to discuss removing it from? It still sits
now?
There were several issues. I'm sorry. There were several issues regarding this. It was brought to our attention by a board member that the policy was not followed. So the first thing we need to do is ascertain that the committee that was formed in order to look at the aspects of this magazine, etc., whether the policy was followed. If it was not followed, then that committee will have to reconvene and do it properly. The committee then would have to bring their report back to this board, and at that time, this board would discuss whether it is going to be voted a yes or a no.
That's why I have my question for Amy. I know the thing says it's gonna be sent to a committee, but when it allows the board to remove something, it doesn't say that it has to be done at the end of the committee report.
That would be
But
my
the-
question
but the-
about
I have a mic. Kids do not have a mic.
removing it now until the committee convenes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's
can't we
let them
remove
watch it,
now
let them read
instead
it
of,
and
like,
all
they're gonna
that.
have another couple days until you guys decide?
It's not residents.
Okay, then can residents remove them on our way out?
Right,
So
how to
Okay,
Okay,
decide
so
that.
again,
Like, seriously,
we
this
just-
is ridiculous.
we
decide
did
that.
discuss this
Shows
previously,
how to
and you do have a
work
very
the penis to
specific
get it
policy
stimulated.
on removing resource materials, because we do have rights, and one of the things we can't do is remove things because of viewpoints that people disagree with. So that's why we have a board policy, and that board policy is
Then I can't reach
9130. And it says very specifically, if we have a complaint about an instructional material or resource material, the complaint must set forth in writing the author, title, and publisher of the material, as well as those specific portions of the material or the work to which objection is taken. The complainant's familiarity with the work, the reasons for the objection, and the use of the work in schools.
That's been done.
That's been done.
Yep.
Says the superintendent shall appoint a committee of professional staff members and community representatives to review the challenged material against the standards for the selection of resource materials established by the board policy. That has been done, but that is what has been brought to question as to the community representatives on that committee. The next sentence says the committee will report its findings to the board, and that's the piece that has not been done yet. And then once the board has those findings, it says, no challenged material may be removed from the curriculum or from a collection of resource materials except by action of the Board of Education, and no challenged material may be removed solely because it presents ideas that may be unpopular or offensive to some. Any board action to remove material will be accompanied by the board's statement of reasons for its removal. And then a complainant shall be notified that the decision of the board may be appealed to the Commissioner of Education. So in following that policy, you need to hear what the committee is going to say, and then you as a board can take action. So what you can do, and what I've had boards do, is I have had boards say, okay, if the committee made one recommendation, I as a board might want to disagree with that recommendation. So if you would like to take action next meeting, you can certainly hear the report and then take action at that meeting if you would like to.
That's fine, I mean, that's reasonable.
This
Can
thing
I
tells my
make a
daughter how to
suggestion?
stimulate a
I just
penis.
don't get it.
How to stimulate a penis.
Can I?
Ma'am, I'm sorry. It's just, I understand.
So do we approve all
I-
material that comes out?
Yeah,
to
who
us?
approved the
It is
magazine?
not residents forum.
Okay, but who
So
approved the
we
magazine?
are not
Obviously, we're going to be voting this out.
I'm sorry.
Let's
I
right
believe-
now.
Can
Next
I,
Wednesday, I
On
will hope that
Wednesday.
the board would vote this out next
Yes.
Wednesday.
Yes.
can I make a suggestion? This is considered resource material,
Yes.
right? Could we treat it like resource material until a board decision is made and put it on a shelf?
Yeah, put it in the back
Be
room
found
somewhere.
if it's resource material and not out on the end
Spread all over the
table.
place.
That's
Yeah,
fine.
it is.
And
Is
then we
that,
can vote on it for next week.
Okay.
So
That's
let's
fine.
Put it away where you would find other
Bring me all
resource
those.
material, and we can make a
Bring
decision
me all those that are in there.
after we hear what their committee came up with.
Thank you, Mr. Shore. Did you hear that recommendation, sir?
What?
Please remove everything that's publicly out here and just put it on the shelf until,
as a resource.
as a resource until the board makes a determination. Thank you.
All right, moving on. Kim, do you have anything for board forum?
Thanks everyone for coming. I hope we get better at communicating within the board and out to you guys and remember to vote tomorrow.
Mrs. McVeigh.
Yeah, just real quick, I'm not gonna take up a lot of time, but I did have a concern about the magazine as well that had been brought to my attention by several residents and parents. It's my understanding that it is also considered part of the curriculum, this magazine, and that parents have the option to opt out of certain things if they don't agree with the material. They can have their child removed from a classroom that something's being taught that they don't necessarily agree with.
It's in the
And I
library.
think what we've done by providing this out in the open is taken that option away from
Right.
parents, and they no longer have the opportunity to say, no, I don't believe this is something that's appropriate for my child. So that's my concern, that it's out in the open. If it's gonna be part of the curriculum or it's gonna be a resource, it should be something not, that a child can't come in here to a public meeting and pick up something like that and take a look at it. And it's blatantly out there. I'm staring at a magazine right now. And that's my concern, and I just wanted to bring that to, if the committee meets again, to this committee, so people would know that parents do have that concern, that we have taken them out of the process. Thanks for coming out. I appreciate everybody's concerns. Please know, as a collective body, we are doing the very best that we can do here. Thank you.